Welcome to GV247.tv, the Global Vision Channel. A non-profit web TV channel bringing biblical perspective to the world in which you live.
Hello and welcome to the weekend show on Global Vision TV at GV247.tv. My name's Deborah Menelaus, and with me is nobody at the moment because Stuart is working on a new project just now. So he sends his regards to you all, and as always we both want to say a big thank you to all who write in to tell us about yourself and how the Lord's touching your life. At this point, I'll repeat our quick reminder to those of you who join us via YouTube. Please, if you can go directly to the website channel, another way of finding us is globalvision.tv, then do that, because you're missing out on almost 1,000 high-quality studio interviews with accredited speakers on a wide range of biblical topics. And they're all waiting for you to listen to the wonderful, encouraging things that they've got to share with you. Now, this week we'll be looking at our Daniel Project Signs of the Times Facebook page and a couple of stories that may not be in your everyday news. I know I've said it before, we started running the Prophecy in the News programme on radio way back in the late 80s, early 90s, and it was really difficult in those days to find any stories from around the world that illustrated the signs of the times from a biblical perspective. Now, with the advent of social media, we're deluged by such stories. Today, however, depending on how much time we have, we're going to look at corruption in the European Union, which is affecting the Middle East, the propagation of occult practices worldwide, with an exhortation to awaken what many call the Kundalini or Jiva spirit, and that's being embraced by churches around the world. And what we don't have time for this week, we'll take a look at next week, because very importantly, we'll be taking a look at persecution of Christians this week. But first, a real treat. On our testimony series on the Crown of Life channel, which was also featured in these weekend shows, so it's programmes 1 and 2 on the Crown of Life channel, they featured Maria and James Jarvie. They each have wonderful testimonies as to what the Lord has done in their lives, and Maria was very pregnant at the time. Now, as Maria's late adopted mother, that means I'm adopted by her, which is a great privilege. She wanted me to be at the birth, which was really exciting for me. We had praise and worship music playing throughout, and Maria was wonderfully brave, and her husband James was there too, of course. However, it didn't all go smoothly, and unfortunately something went terribly wrong. So here we have Maria and James post-birth. And if we're very fortunate, we might even have Rachael coming in to say hello to everybody. So you were just about ready to give birth when you gave your testimony, and you were finally taken into hospital. So could you just tell everybody what happened?
Yeah, so I was past my due date, Mama Debs, and I spoke to my midwife, and I really have the feeling that I really need to have a scheduled induction. And then they agreed. And so we came up, James and I, and it's just, they started a procedure, and then they told us, like, after 6 hours that I'm only a centimeter dilated. That's why we phoned you, because they asked us to stay for a night, and then it all happened. So past midnight, they decided to break my water, but before that they gave me the belt, which is the tension.
They were monitoring baby's heartbeat, but to also help release some tension as well.
And after that they gave me the gas and air, which is my saving grace for
as the pain built up,
because I went 200 to the maximum of the pain, and I just couldn't take it. I'm telling you a couple of times that I want
you needed to give birth.
And then they gave that to me, and then they said, okay, I'll break your water. And then I just saw Mama Deb's eyes went big, like, and I just, okay, something is going on. And I just prayed, and I closed my eyes while taking the gas and air, and I said, Jesus, just help me. and there was no pain at all. And they finally succeed in breaking my water. They decided to put a needle on my back. How do you call the procedure, Mama Debs?
Goodness gracious,
I
it's
know.
gone right out of my head. Epidural.
Because I keep on saying, I want epidural, but they're refusing to give that to me because of the procedure. But then my worries is that if I'll get the pain again, how is that possible to put the needle on my back? And we just prayed again that the Lord will keep the pain low as much as possible so I don't move, because you can't help it. Like if you're in pain, you tend to move and get the position that you wanted. And it just went through perfectly. And I'm thanking the Lord that we had that procedure, because once you had the epidural, they will put like heart
monitor?
Yes, heart monitor inside me to check Rachel's heartbeat. And then after that, they just broke the news that Rachel's heartbeat went to 1, I think, or 2 in 1 digit, but that's the lowest. And I just heard that everybody said they called all the doctors and they said I need to go for an emergency C-section. And I just remember that I told the doctor to just cut me. It's just I'm giving instruction, just do everything to save my baby.
Yeah, I know, darling. You know, there was such a sense of the presence of the Lord, because we had praise and worship going on all the time in the room. And like so many, the plan was to have as natural birth as possible. Oh dear, I went through the same, you know, the lovely music and the dim lights, and it was all going to be beautiful in a water birth. And it went very par for the course at the beginning. When Maria's saying about my eyes going wide, it was just when they actually broke her waters, there was a lot of what's called meconium in it, and that just means that the baby was very advanced, fully grown, a great sign, but she'd opened her bowels while she was in the womb. And so normally you don't wait too long after that happens to take the baby out, but it was quite a number of hours, wasn't it? And I tell you, Maria was just fabulous. She was just so brave, and you bore it all well. And poor Daddy is sitting in the background, praying, not knowing what to do. What was it like for you, James?
Yeah, it was tough to see your wife going through so much pain. Like up until that point, there weren't any concerns over the baby, but only over my wife, because she was in such pain and discomfort, and there was nothing I could do to help her other than pray.
But you prayed.
Yeah.
You prayed. So and Rachel's heartbeat, the baby's heartbeat was fine, and then suddenly it dropped. No heartbeat almost, and the alarms went off. And the idea was to rush her straight into theatre to give her an emergency section. So there was one light moment in it. Is it okay if I tell them?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. So obviously Daddy was going to go along to be with her. They gave Jarvie is a big bloke. They gave him nice blue scrubs to wear, and they didn't fit properly. And he was he finally just said, "Oh, Deb, would you just go along? Would you?" And I said, "That's fine," because it was good knowing he was there praying. It's an upsetting thing for any man to go through. So I was given the blue scrubs wouldn't fit me, and they gave me green ones. I am now a little doctor. I'm barely 5 feet tall. So Dr. Menelaus, I went along to the theatre praying and weighing my head. And you were all covered, darling, but I had to sit beside your head. And the anaesthetist said, if you're going to fall forward. Whatever you do, just don't get in the way. And I said, I'm fine. I've got a lot of medical experience. And she said, oh, have you? What's that? I said, well, I've watched every episode of ER twice, and my son's a doctor. And she just looked at me. She wasn't amused, but I found it quite funny. It took away my own nerves. And in fact, at one point, as you know, I'm a filmmaker anyway, but Maria had me taken her iPhone and I quietly walked around the operation trying to film it, and the doctors weren't very happy with me, were they? So there was a wee bit lightness in the midst of it, because eventually, after a wee bit time, they pulled Rachael out and she was quite blue and she wasn't breathing properly. So the thing is, dealing with that, not wanting Maria to get terribly upset, they rushed little Rachael into a side room and they started massaging her and doing all sorts of things to get her breathing. And finally, she took a breath, but it was touch and go for several days. It was really, really hard for you both, wasn't it? Not the birth that they dreamed of. But, darling, I mean, you never know why God allows these things, but knowing that he was in the midst was the most amazing thing. And the prayer. I put it right up on Facebook, for example. And in fact, one lady from South Africa got in touch with you, one of my friends, and these women and men, I'm sure, were praying and praying and praying for several days until finally we were through the woods. It took about a week, didn't it? It was a good week before you were able to take.
Oh, it was 2 weeks.
2 weeks.
So it was, of course it was. Oh my goodness. It was, every day was like the one before it. It wasn't really. So I'm going to ask our sound engineer, Keith, if he would go and get Rachael. Thank the Lord for these doctors and nurses, for medical teams. We're so blessed, aren't we?
So blessed.
And Rachael is now a very integral part of our lives, of our church. And Papa Stu, you thought Papa Stu was working.
Oh, she just enjoyed the papas.
Oh, here she is. Right, okay. Yeah, Papa Stu's away to get your headband. So this is Rachael. Hold her up. And what does her name mean?
Little lamb.
Little lamb.
Or sheep.
Yeah. And what do you have in your hands there? Oh, well, what you did have in your hands, which I'm sure Keith's going to pick up. Yes. So it really is an amazing answer to prayer. And has she... There you go. Little lamb. Your little lamb. So how has Rachael changed your life? Because having to live those 2 weeks praying that she was going to survive and she was going to come through it all is a testing time for anybody. But what impact has this had on your life? Thank you, Papa Stu. There we go. Jarvie, what's it been like for you?
It's kind of hard to quantify. It's... But yeah, it'd be a dramatic change. I mean, although it was such a troubling time, it was amazing to go through it, because the change in my character, like, I've always found it hard to sympathise with people going through certain things. But I mean, even to see someone go through what we went through, I just want to start crying for them, and to be able to weep with someone is a pretty amazing thing. So I'm very thankful that the Lord used a terrible situation for the good. So
it was a heart transplant for you, James, really.
Yeah, pretty much.
A big change of heart. And what about you, Maria?
Oh, it's the same, Mama Deb. So I believe that the Lord will bring healing to Rachael.
Yeah.
And every night I keep on praying and weeping, just asking the Lord to save my baby. It's just painful to be in that situation.
Yes.
It's like your first baby, and you see, you're just staring at her in that incubator. You just can't accept. But I know that the Lord uses that opportunity because in the hospital, she's being called as a miracle baby.
Yeah.
Which means that the Lord just healed her. And the Lord uses that situation for us to be, or to share that there is God in heaven who can do miracles or who can move mountains.
That's right.
And it's just very touching. I mean, my birthing testimony is really moved a lot of mothers. Just hearing how she went through and the healing process. And when we just visited our pediatrician recently, and she's thriving and she's doing so well, we just keep on praising and rejoicing to the Lord, because she's quite advanced with her milestones.
Yes.
Who would have thought that she's going to be advanced with that?
There appears to be no damage, no brain damage. She's a bright, sparky, intelligent little one. And my goodness, I can't believe she's sitting still.
Yeah.
She's a wriggler. She's on the go all the time. She even climbed stairs the other day, passed all her milestones, and it really has been a wonderful testimony to the Lord and what He does. So, is there anything else you'd like to add?
I think James...
Yeah, I mean, it was, even through the entire ordeal, the Lord comforted us. We were both confident, and even when we got called into the office to speak to a doctor and a nurse, they asked us if we would like a chaplain to come in and perform a blessing.
I remember that.
And we were like, no. Why would we want that? If we were confident she's going to be fine. We had this peace.
Exactly, Mama
But
Debs.
it was still, in the midst of that ordeal, it was a great sadness. But it was still, we were confident and at peace. And the Lord kept giving me Psalm 145. And I burst out in tears every time I read it. It's such a beautiful, beautiful verse.
Wonderful. It's just wonderful. And I remember, when I was coming up, and James, you took me, you said, I'll take you into another room today. And you actually took me into where the incubators were. And I thought I was just coming to look at her. And there was Maria sitting at the side, holding Rachel skin to skin. The first time. And I just burst out crying. It was just a miracle, a wonderful, wonderful miracle.
Yeah.
So I hope you're encouraged. I mean, I know, I'm very, very aware that not every time does it turn out as well as it has this time. We're very aware of that. And as I say, we don't know why God allows certain things. But this one is a testimony to Him. So thank you to all of you who prayed. So many. There's a number of people in a prayer group that I'm in who are really looking forward to seeing this programme and just hearing from you both. Have you any plans for the future?
No. Take each day as it comes.
And serve the Lord.
And serve the Lord.
A wee hug for Nana. Yes, but Papa Stew's your favourite, isn't he? So that's great thanks to the little Jarvie family for coming in, and it's been lovely just to even look at these photographs. She's our miracle baby, but we hope to have Maria popping back now and again to help with the Bethel Women programmes, which will be launched in the Lord's timing. So we really send our love and blessings to James, Maria and baby Rachel, and great thanks to the Lord. So moving on, our first Daniel Project Signs of the Times Facebook article. Thanks to Martin J, who's also inside Arabia. Now, as you know, Britain is involved in negotiations with the European Union regarding their exit from that union, which was originally called the Common Market, which really does what it says on the tin. That's exactly what it was, and it was what Britain signed up for. Britain is part of Europe, but no longer wishes to be part of the federal states of Europe, the economic union, where laws are made in another country that impact Britain in so many ways. Now, although the vote to leave was very close, it was just short of 52% of those who voted, tales of financial excess and corruption contributed to the argument to leave. And it has spread to the Middle East. And this story I'm about to share has been going on for 14 years. Now, the European Union is about to open a full investigation into widespread embezzlement and corruption of its own aid money distributed in Lebanon since 2005. The EU's own anti-fraud department in Brussels has received an incendiary letter sent to it from a leading member of the European Parliament calling for an inquiry into EU cash ploughed into waste management projects in Lebanon. Now, an investigation which spanned over a year exposed a corruption market which has diverted most of the cash into the hands of political groups. And perhaps worse, the legacy of EU corruption in Lebanon is that it is so out of control now that it's actually killing people. These so-called environmentally friendly operations are so badly run that they're actually poisoning the groundwater in many parts of the country, a factor that experts have linked to increased cancer rates, the investigation claims. So drop us a message if you want to know more about that subject, because much prayer is required for those who are suffering because of this really unfortunate situation. Now, talking of which, Barnabas Trust, who we support here at GV247, has put out an appeal for help because of increasing attacks on Christians in Cameroon in Africa. Urgent help is needed for survivors. 200 Christian families escaped alive when Boko Haram militants attacked the village of Roum in Cameroon's far north region last month. Why did they survive? Because they had decided to sleep in the bush because of in their houses. Now that's a precaution taken because of so many other recent attacks on nearby villages. We have so many photographs of the devastation caused by fire because that foresight saved their lives, but they still lost everything they owned. The jihadists set fire to their homes, killed their livestock, plundered their food stores of millet. So with their clothes, bedding and other possessions destroyed, the believers are now living in a local school. These attacks led to great fear, psychosis, trauma and panic. But July to September is known as the hard and hungry time because northern Cameroon has now entered its lean season. In this region, the annual harvest of maize and millet occurs in mid-October. So during the last 3 months before harvest, food stocks from the previous year have run low. So now it is harder than normal for relatives to provide for displaced families who have joined their household, and that's adding many extra mouths to be fed. So July, August and September are also cool and wet in this mountainous area, and that's adding to the problems of those sleeping in the open. Now, Barnabas is asking for help for 1,100 Christian families living in distress in Cameroon after Boko Haram attacks destroyed their homes, possession and livestock. Now, they're providing urgent aid for 1,120 displaced families. They're distressed and disoriented, and most of them have nothing but the clothes that they were wearing when Boko Haram attacked. So as well as food and bedding, each family will receive soap and bleach because during the wet season, cholera and other waterborne diseases are a danger in the mountain areas. So please go to barnabasfund.org to find out more and see how you can help. And meanwhile, according to Open Doors, the number one country in the world for persecuting Christians is the aforementioned North Korea, who have been doing these weapons deals with Iran. Now, Open Doors estimate that there are between 200,000 and 400,000 Christians in North Korea. However, it's difficult to get an exact figure, as Christians there must keep their faith completely secret. Of those, Open Doors estimates that between 50,000 and 70,000 Christians are imprisoned in terrible labour camps simply for choosing to follow Jesus. And yet, despite the risks, the church in North Korea is slowly but steadily growing. So why are they persecuted? Christians are considered enemies of the state because they dare to believe in a higher authority than the Kim family and the president. The North Korean regime demands absolute loyalty and obedience, and the Kim family are worshipped like gods. Portraits of the family must be hung in all homes and schools, and the first words that parents must teach their children are, "Thank you, Father Kim Il-sung." So, what's life like for Christians there? They must keep their faith completely secret. If a Christian has a Bible or even part of one, it must be carefully hidden and only read when the believer is sure they are alone. Most Christians, they don't even tell their own children about their faith until they are older teenagers, for fear that they may let something slip. If a Christian is discovered in North Korea, they will be arrested and imprisoned in one of North Korea's terrible labour camps. In the camps, they are worked like slaves and often tortured, and most are never able to escape. And I have to tell you, one of the worst executions I've ever heard of is too horrible for me to even mention to you. It is appalling. You cannot even begin to imagine what these Christians are undergoing in that country. And yet, our brothers and sisters in North Korea have decided that knowing Jesus is worth the risks they face. As I said, the church in North Korea, it's not only surviving, but it's growing, and they have great hope for the future. One Christian has shared, saying that one day the borders will open and we will unite with the South Korean and the Chinese church to bring the gospel to some of the darkest places on this earth. So even in the darkness of the labour camps, God is at work. Please, to find out more about that, visit Open Doors. That's opendoorsuk.org. And perhaps the Lord will move you to be praying for them. We hope you've been blessed by this week's programme. Because we're out of time and that's it. However, next week we'll be looking at the move to have everybody embrace another Jesus, another Spirit, just as it's predicted in the Bible. And both of these certainly lead to another gospel, which is no gospel at all. The only way to keep yourself safe with all that's being thrown at us nowadays is to do what these persecuted brothers and sisters are doing, which is to have a living, daily relationship with God through Jesus Christ. You need to know and study His Word for yourself. And remember, drop in on our Lamplight study group every Monday. This week they're carrying on discussing Section 9, Angels and Demons. And remember, as I've said before, if you're not up to date, then it's best to start back at Section 1. All of that's on Channel 2, of course. And those of you who write in with prayer requests, please be assured you are indeed kept in prayer. So do keep us up to date with what's happening. And also, we always say, if you've got any questions or wish us to cover other subjects, please click on the contact link below and let us know. And remember, again, if you're watching on YouTube, we've got almost 1,000 films on the Global Vision TV network, all available for free. So be sure to watch. So until next week, thanks for watching. God bless.
This is GV247.tv, bringing biblical perspective to the world in which you live. A powerful free resource with hundreds of short films on a wide range of Bible topics from experts around the world, plus full-length sermons and programs for teaching and encouragement. Choose from current affairs, signs of the times, a chance to voice your own opinion, and special offers on our full-length feature films, documentaries, and study materials. At over 4 hours in length, the Lamplight Project is a systematic 12-part Bible study series, a powerful teaching tool that begins with the origins of life and takes the viewer on a comprehensive journey packed with high-profile interviews, film, graphics, and illustrations, concluding with the return of Christ and an encouragement to stand firm and be faithful. Complete with a free study guide download for both personal and group study, this powerful interactive guide connects to over 1,000 programs with expert interviews on GV247.tv, our free service web TV channel. Does My Life Have Meaning? A powerful 1-hour presentation produced from the Lamplight Project. With a free copy of the Gospel of Luke, this film is crammed with engaging interviews, film and graphics. A life-challenging film to those searching for answers. As distributors for the Jesus film, we offer this timeless movie based on Luke's Gospel. This clear presentation of the life of Jesus Christ has been viewed worldwide and translated into over 1,200 languages. We provide the film with a free copy of the Gospel of Luke. The Daniel Project is a popular TV documentary that presents an overview of Bible prophecy and an encouragement to read the signs of the times. Hailed as one of the best TV films to be made on the subject, DVD extras feature a heart-to-heart interview about the way of rescue. Based loosely on the documentary, The Daniel Connection is a full-length feature film. This fictional thriller incorporates many of the themes promoted through pop culture and social media which affect people on a global scale. Launched at the Cannes Film Festival, The Daniel Connection points the ever-skeptical viewer to search the Bible for answers to life's deepest questions. We've been serving the body of Christ for over 30 years, and if you would like further information, please do not hesitate to get in touch.